Our story begins in the neon-lit streets of Coruscant as Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi have tracked down the bounty hunter Zam Wesell after she was hired by Jango, who was hired by Dooku, who was instructed by Sidious, and Zam of course used droids that flew to Padme's apartment and used killer worms. It was what many are calling the cleanest and least complicated bounty operation of all time. And shockingly, it fell apart. But as Anakin and Obi-Wan were trying to interrogate Zam into revealing who hired her to kill Padme, a poison dart was suddenly fired from a nearby tower. The dart plunged right into Zam's neck, and she would quickly die on the spot. Anakin and Obi-Wan would look up, seeing a bounty hunter taking off in his jetpack, and this time, Anakin decided to act purely on instinct. He leapt up as high as he could, jumping to the roof of the club, and the sound of speeders above masked the sound of Obi-Wan telling him to stop. Anakin would watch this bounty hunter fly into speeder traffic, and so Anakin leapt into the air again, getting into the speeder of a human male. The man pulled out a blaster, and Anakin used the Force, tossing him out of the speeder, knowing that Obi-Wan was watching. Obi-Wan would catch the man and tell him that he'll get his speeder back in perfect shape. Maybe. Anakin took off in the speeder, still following this bounty hunter in Mandalorian armor, and the hunter would eventually fly down into the large portal hole that led into the Coruscant underworld. Anakin eventually would get to the edge of the opening, and as he looked down, he felt overwhelmed. Filling the entire area were all sorts of beings and ships. Supply ships, personal speeders, transport buses. There were dozens just in the first few levels. Anakin felt anger flowing through him. He couldn't just let a Padme's assassin get away, so he considered where this lowlife bounty hunter would go, and the answer came to him as he calmed his mind. Level 1313, the most infamous level in the entire underworld, a dungeon so deep that the underworld police barely even care about it. If there were bounties being put on Republic senators, this was the level where it would be done. That would be the area where a wanted bounty hunter would be able to hide his ship and make an escape. So Anakin took a deep breath, then jumped off the edge. He would fall forever down one level at a time, holding out his arms, using the Force to guide his descent, avoiding all sorts of ships and citizens as they yelled curse words at him. Anakin just kept on falling, and soon the air became stale and much more sparse of anyone. Anakin called upon the Force to aid his landing, and he landed hard on his feet as an echo rang out around the area. Anakin would cough from the disgusting air. The people down here were not exactly friendly to the Jedi, but they also didn't want any trouble. Gang enforcers were leaning against spray-painted walls. Overworked employees were dragging themselves between shifts. This is the exact type of level that Jango Fett would want to disappear into. Level 1313 offers anonymity to anyone who knew how to navigate it. Its proximity to black market arms dealers, slicers, corrupt port authorities made it ideal for slipping off-planet without notice. Jango understood that the deeper levels of Coruscant were as dangerous as any battlefield, but they also offer profit just like a battlefield, and Anakin moved through the grime and the shadows. He could feel so many eyes turning to him, but he wouldn't hide his confidence, using a Jedi mind trick on a hangar owner to find out everything he could about the bounty hunter. And finally, Anakin would enter a hangar right as the Slave One starship was taking off. Anakin ran forward, leaping into the air, grabbing on to the lower guns. He swung forward, landing on the cockpit window, staring right into it at Jango Fett, without his helmet on. Jango scowled, and he twisted the ship around, spinning to try and drop Skywalker, but the young Jedi plunged his blade through the glass, forcing Jango to protect his face from the shards. Anakin dove into the cockpit, and he activated the landing sequence. As the ship landed hard back to the hangar, Anakin threw Jango Fett out of the window and onto the hard steel floor. Jango would tumble to the ground, and he didn't hesitate, firing a wrist rocket right at Anakin. It detonated against Anakin's spinning blade, the blast rattling his bones. As Anakin now fell to the ground, saber falling away from his hand, a jetpack-assisted kick would send Anakin skidding across the platform as he got up, and then Anakin would roll his eyes out of pain, anger, annoyance, and he would lunge again, pulling his saber back to himself. But Jango was firing grapples into support beams, yanking himself just out of reach, countering with shock darts and point-blank blaster fire that would scorch Anakin's robes, barely missing his skin. Desperately, Anakin would tear a thermal charge from a nearby cargo crate, hurling it forward with the Force, trying to end this. But Jango was faster. A wrist-mounted cable would snap out, wrapping around Anakin's arms, cinching them together, causing Anakin's throne charge to move off of its trajectory. The canister sailed past Jango as the bounty hunter reeled Anakin in hard, pointing his blaster at Skywalker's head, saying he won't be the first Jedi that he's killed, and he shouldn't have missed with the explosive charge. Anakin then tilted his head to just peek right past Jango, and he asked Jango if he was sure that he missed. Jango turned in a slight panic, right as the explosive charge went off right next to his Slave One ship. The explosion caused a chain reaction all throughout the hangar. Anakin was thrown to the floor, Jango went flying, slamming into a wall, and after a minute, the hangar went quiet as the fire and the smoke were filling the room. And as Jango turned around on the floor, it was now Anakin holding a saber to his face, telling Jango that he isn't the first bounty hunter that he's captured. Jango's head fell back, unconscious from the explosions, and Anakin sighed heavily, realizing he would have to carry him out of here. And at the same time, back on Kamino, young Boba Fett was moving anxiously in his dark room, listening to the typical sounds of the rainstorm crashing against his window, along with the rapid beeping of an emergency tracker that Jango had given him in case of emergency. His father was supposed to be home soon, but instead, he activated a beacon that was secretly tucked away in his armor, only to be activated in case of emergency, and there was a protocol that Boba was expected to follow if this is activated. This beacon was given to Jango by Dooku to be activated if the Jedi are ever closing in on him, because he knows so many secrets about Dooku and his plan, and if it happened, Dooku would get to work on rescuing him, or so he said. And so Boba gathered some things and took off running through the Kaminoan halls toward the main room where Prime Minister Lama Su was residing. Boba burst into the room, telling him that Jango is in trouble with the Jedi. They need to help him. Lama Su would thank Boba for this information, and then told him to go back to his room and wait. Jango will be recovered and returned here in no time at all. Boba tried to argue, but a couple of clone troopers wearing gray accents on their armor would walk in and escort Boba back to his room. But Boba would not be staying here. Jango has taught him well, and when he was alone, Boba climbed up into the vents and quickly began making his way through the long, winding metal. Finally, Boba would enter back into the main room, where he found the Prime Minister contacting Dooku. Lama Su told Dooku that Jango is in trouble. The Jedi may have captured him. Dooku didn't show any emotion or remorse, as he told Lama Su that he understands. He will alert his master about this, and Jango's death will be organized rather quickly. He then told Lama Su to make sure that his son dies as well. They cannot risk any of their plans being leaked from the Fetts. The call would end, and Lama Su would put together a syringe that will soon be inserted into Boba's arm after he falls asleep. It was unfortunate, but it was all part of the job when working with people like Dooku. But, of course, Boba heard all of this through the vents, and he would wait until the perfect moment, sneaking away to one of the Kaminoan hangars. There were all sorts of ships flying in and out of Kamino, bringing supplies and clones, up to Venators in space for when the time comes. And Boba just had to hijack one of these ships. He took off from Kamino before anyone would even realize that his room was empty. And many hours later, on Coruscant, Jango Fett was being held in a cell inside of the Jedi Temple. Anakin had brought him here, and the Jedi had tried a few different masters to try and get Jango to reveal who hired him. There was someone out there hiring bounty hunters to kill Republic senators. It was an extremely serious matter that could not be ignored. But before any interrogation could continue, the Jedi Council would receive a message from the office of the Chancellor, requesting that their prisoner be transferred to a high-security Republic prison, as this bounty hunter has been targeting senators, not Jedi. This is no longer their problem. Mace Windu tried to argue, saying the Jedi were assigned to protect the senator, and this was a part of that assignment. But Palpatine would not stand down. He told Windu that tensions are already high with the Jedi, considering that a former master of their order, Dooku, is the one behind the Separatist alliance. It would be better for everyone if they hand over Jango Fett immediately. So, the council would comply. Jango would be placed into cuffs, and he would be escorted to a landing pad where Palpatine and 15 Senate guards would be waiting to take him into custody. But this operation was planned out by Darth Sidious in order for Jango to be assassinated. The landing pad could be seen from many hidden lookout spots, and on one of them, Cad Bane was waiting, holding a sniper, waiting for the right opening to kill Jango. And finally, Jango would be brought out for the prison transfer. Jedi Mace Windu, Shaak Ti, Kit Fisto, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker were with him. Cad Bane aimed right for Jango. He put his finger on the trigger, and he pulled it for the kill shot. But right as Bane pulled the trigger, a blaster pistol shot would slam right into his hand, causing his own sniper shot to be redirected just a few inches. The shot seared across Coruscant, and it hit a Senate guard right in the head instead of Jango. In a panic, Mace Windu dove on top of Jango, covering him, igniting his lightsaber. Obi-Wan, Kit Fisto, and Shaak Ti all looked around, and it would be Anakin who noticed where the shot came from. Anakin didn't hesitate, jumping onto a speeder of one of the Senate guards, taking off right in the direction of the sniper shot. And out on the perch, Cad Bane was trying to ignore the burning pain of the flesh on his hand as he looked around the area, wondering who just shot him. Someone was watching him. Someone disrupted his shot. And as Bane turned a corner, a young boy would leap out from atop a large crate, kicking Bane right in the face as they both tumbled to the ground. Bane spit out some blood, then used his rocket boots to fly up and fire down at the boy. He realized quickly that it was Boba Fett, Jango's son. Boba rolled the cover, and Bane asked how he knew that he would be here. Boba sarcastically yelled back that Bane must not know who his father is. Jango has taught him well. He knew there would be an attempt on his father's life, and Bane told Boba that he was brave but foolish, and he flew down to Boba's hiding spot, getting right in his face. Bane apologized to the kid, saying it's just part of the job, but before he could fire, a blue lightsaber would ignite right through Bane's back and out of his chest. Cad Bane dropped his blasters, and he dropped dead as Anakin Skywalker emerged, looking down to Boba Fett. Boba told Anakin that he knows who hired Jango. He has so much information that the Jedi could want. All he asks is that they keep his father safe. Anakin would reach a hand out, telling the brave young boy to come with him. They will go to Jango together. The revelation that Jango had a son was surprising to everyone, and Anakin would bring the boy over to Palpatine, to the Senate guards, and the Jedi escort team. Upon their meeting, Mace Windu would have Jango and Boba placed back onto the Jedi transport ship, telling Palpatine that the Jedi cannot transfer this prisoner over to him. It is extremely clear that someone on the inside does not want Jango alive. Everyone involved with this operation must now be under investigation. Clearly, someone told the bounty hunter Cad Bane about this prisoner transfer. Palpatine's warm look would suddenly turn extremely cold as he told the Jedi that this is not their decision to make. Palpatine would tell the Jedi to step aside immediately. But now, Windu simply told the Chancellor they cannot do that. And so, Palpatine would sternly tell the Jedi squad that they serve the Senate. This irked Windu even more. Palpatine was right. They are supposed to serve the Senate, but he could not simply turn over a prisoner who was being hunted down like this. It was clear that the Fetts have answers that someone doesn't want getting out. So, Windu remembered something that Dooku used to tell him before he turned against the Jedi and the Republic. Windu would turn back to Palpatine, telling him, no, the Jedi serve the people of this Republic. Palpatine said so be it, and he ordered the Senate guards to raise their weapons. Windu, Shaak Ti, Obi-Wan, Kit Fisto, and Anakin all stayed still. None of their lightsabers ignited at this point. Anakin could barely recognize Palpatine right now. Palpatine would tell the Jedi that this is treason, and he will not hesitate to fire at them. Palpatine was so intent on this because he was unsure just how much information Jango truly knew. Surely, he at least knew that Dooku was Tyrannus, and that Dooku ordered the clone army. He also knew about Order 66, and because Jango was just nearly assassinated by another bounty hunter hired by Dooku, there would be no more loyalty between them. If Jango is taken away with the Jedi, then everything will fall apart. And so, as the Senate guards and Jedi stared at each other in a tense standoff, Darth Sidious decided to take things into his own hands. With a quick spin, he turned, firing lightning into every single Senate guard behind him, sending all of them flying off of the landing pad to their certain deaths. Their screams would fade as the 5 Jedi ignited their blades, realizing why Palpatine wanted Jango so badly. Windu would tell Anakin and Obi-Wan to get Jango out of here, get him and the boy to safety. Anakin wanted to stay and fight, but Obi-Wan grabbed his arm as they moved to the transport ship, and as Anakin got to the controls, he looked out of the window to see Palpatine holding a red lightsaber. Anakin watched as Shaak Ti was cut in half, and Sidious used the Force, throwing Shaak Ti's ignited blade through the air. It would plunge right into Kit Fisto's heart, as Sidious swiped, cutting off his head. Mace Windu swung forward, and Sidious ducked right under a strike and sliced across Windu's back, as he now tumbled to the ground. The Jedi were rusty. Without a few years of war to get them back into a fighting mindset, they were not ready to take on the Dark Lord of the Sith. Anakin flew away, but the ship was halted in the air, as Sidious grabbed onto it with the Force, then blasted lightning right into the back engines. The engines exploded, and the ship began falling towards the Coruscant streets. Anakin yelled back to Obi-Wan, Jango, and Boba, telling them to brace for impact. Anakin did everything he could, guiding the ship into a clean landing. Of course, this meant they crashed extremely hard into a local diner that was closing up for the night. No one was inside of it, except for the owner. And as Anakin made sure that everyone inside was alright, the owner of this diner yelled into the ship, demanding that they pay and fix all of this. Obi-Wan sighed, realizing where they were, and he would greet his old friend Dex, telling him the Jedi will pay for everything. First, they have some business to take care of. And up above, on the landing pad, Darth Sidious was looking down to the crashed shuttle. This was not good. Jedi and Senate reinforcements would be coming soon. He would need to kill everyone, including Anakin, and blame all of this on Jango Fett. He turned to see Fisto and Shaak Ti dead, and Mace Windu writhing in pain on the ground, slowly dying. Sidious decided it was better that way. So, he jumped from the landing pad, floating down to the ground below, and in the crashed shuttle, Anakin and Obi-Wan slowly crawled out of it, igniting their sabers as Sidious landed. Both of them knew the odds were stacked against them. If three masters lost so quickly, what chance did they have? But they had each other, and Anakin knew he had to stay in his master's rhythm. So as Sidious came at them, they blocked the first onslaught. Still inside of the crashed ship, Jango and Boba worked free of some debris, and Jango saw that a locked crate had been broken open in the crash. Inside of it was all of his armor and weapons that were being transported with him. Boba said they can still get out of here, but Jango looked to the Jedi, and he told Boba there's only one way to actually be free of being constantly hunted. And inside of the broken diner, Obi-Wan moved a step back, but Sidious would slice off Obi-Wan's arm. In the same moment, he would be hurled through the air and vanishing into the debris. Obi-Wan was gone, and now there was only Anakin, hands shaking, telling Sidious they don't have to do this. But lightning cracked out of Sidious's hands as Anakin blocked. Sidious only increased his power. Anakin felt like he was going to lose his grip, and then a jetpack would scream out overhead. Jango Fett fired his cable right at Sidious, wrapping the Sith in it, as the lightning ceased. Jango fired a pair of blasts at Sidious. One of them hit him in the side, but he ripped free of the cable, deflecting the second blast with his blade. He reached into the air, pulling Jango hard to the ground, dragging him across the concrete. But Anakin was now back. Sidious blocked a strike, only for another blast to hit him in the back shoulder blade. Boba Fett was now firing at him. Sidious used a force pulse, sending all of them rolling away. But then he looked up, right as Mace Windu returned to the fight, slicing right across Sidious's face as he landed hard, falling from the landing pad. But Mace Windu screamed in pain as he landed. His back was barely holding together, but still, he was using every ounce of strength that he had left in a final stand. Sidious had an eye gashed away, blaster wounds were pelting his body, and it only got worse. As Jango and Boba kept firing, Anakin and Windu used this distraction to push their blades forward, stabbing into Sidious together. Sidious lashed out wildly, but his strength was waning. Windu told Sidious he is under arrest as he fell to his knees. But a final blast from Jango would fly right into the back of Sidious's head, and he fell dead. Windu finally could let go, and he dropped down. He looked at Jango, thanking the hunter for his help, and telling Anakin he's done well. Jango said he had no choice, but he is welcome, and Windu would let go, dying to the injuries, knowing the Republic would be safe. A bit later, Obi-Wan emerged from the rubble as Dexter Jettster was helping him out, telling Obi-Wan he owes him so much, and Obi-Wan assured him it will all be fixed. In the hours that followed, Jango Fett was brought before the Jedi Council and a select group of the Galactic Senate, where he detailed how Dooku engineered the clone army. The evidence was quickly overwhelming, especially knowing now that Palpatine was Dooku's Sith Master. The revelation fractured the Separatist movement overnight. Their Senate would disavow Dooku before the first battle of the Clone Wars could erupt. What was framed as an ideological struggle was exposed as manipulation by a single duo of Sith. Republic and Separatist leaders met under Jedi mediation, and within weeks, joint forces would track Dooku down, arresting him without war erupting. Grievous was hunted and destroyed. The Separatist Council was arrested, ensuring the droid army could never begin their terror. True negotiations took place, and without Dooku and Palpatine in the way, the Republic and Separatist governments were allowed to exist side by side, independent but cooperative. The Jedi continued their role as peacekeepers instead of generals, and the Senate began the long work of reform without the pressure of constant war. Anakin became a knight, Obi-Wan became a council master, and the two of them would live under Windu's words, serving the people of this republic. Anakin would often find himself in the office of Vice Chair Padme Amidala for meetings and stuff. Obi-Wan would become a key mediator, often traveling to worlds that were neither Republic nor Separatist to help negotiate trade. He most often found himself on Mandalore, and so he and Anakin both had a secret. They would share this secret in a double date in the rebuilt diner belonging to Dexter Jetster, much improved with the Jedi help. The council would regroup without Mace, Shakti, and Fisto, and their joint funeral would be a beautiful one as their lives were celebrated. The galaxy settled without the Sith, and on a distant world close to Kamino, 200,000 clones were free to live their lives, building out a new society as a neutral world, often visited by bounty hunters Jango and Boba Fett. And folks, that is our story for today. I enjoyed this one. I've done a couple Jango and Boba stories in the past. What if Jango was, I think, captured by Obi-Wan? And what if Boba told the Jedi about, or whatever, Order 66. The Obi-Wan Jango one, I think it was? Whatever. It was fun. This one was a lot of fun. Jango's a fun character, because, I don't know, his loyalties are with Dooku in Attack of the Clones, but it's really just who's paying him. And as soon in the story as, he's captured, Dooku, obviously, to me, would be like, alright, we gotta kill this guy, he knows so much. And as soon as that failed, Jango's loyalty to Dooku is gone, and we get our story. I quite enjoyed it. Integrating Boba into it as well was fun. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I wanted to do something in level 1313 at the beginning. Infamous level was going to be the game so long ago. Rest in peace. Oh, Dexter Jetster cameo. Shout out. That was fun. Yeah. I had some fun with the story, that part. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next video.